Here's my valve manifold. And you can see what I did here. I got compression fittings with an inch long tube between each. That allowed me to mount these valves so close together, because otherwise any other style of fitting and you would have to spin the valves, and you can only spin one of them because they're so close, obviously. So that worked out pretty well. Got 90-degree angles here for more air lines to come in, like the compressor line, if I run an air brake, train horn, and then here's another one for whatever else I decide to hook it up to, or I might just plug it. So now that I have this set up, you can see it's in a round shape, and I specifically designed this so that I could fit see I got those pretty close to the same length, about as close as I can get with these style hoses and having to cut all that and whatever. So now I'm gonna put these elbow fittings to go like this, and they're swivels, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a cover and have these come out the cover, so the cover is gonna mount through these. It'll actually be mounted with the fittings, okay? And then I'll have air line that comes up here, and I'll have 4 more here. So I'll have a total of 8 lines coming out. Here's my other manifold. So this will go off of a T. So there'll be a T, say right here, that goes to each bag. Alright, and then this will hook into here, if that makes sense. So this is like the exhaust manifold. So the air will come into here. Then we'll have another compression fitting, another 2 compression fittings, one here, mount this onto there, like so, just like I did right here, so they're all close together so I can make a nice cap. And then these will be exhaust valves, so when I hit these, it'll release all the pressure from the air line. And this is the gauge port. So this is an AVS sensor, and these are 1/8 inch MPT holes that are drilled in between this line and the exhaust valve. So this will be the same pressure as the airbags, because this will be pressurized up until the valve, which holds in the air and then releases it. So this is a good spot for that. This will be mounted inside the car like this, so these won't get wet. I don't think they're recommended to get wet. And then this will be mounted, say, like on the outside of the car with the valves out, and then a little cover over them just to keep mud and stuff off of them. Obviously you want the release valves on the outside of the car. I could also mount this inside the car and then run hoses to the outside of the car, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I gotta see what I got for space. But you don't want these things opening up in your car because they're pretty loud, without mufflers especially. So I have one of these sensors for each corner here, for each airbag. And then there's a 5th sensor with this AVS kit. See, there's 4, and then the 1 sensor I already have out. The 5th sensor goes in your tank, and it tells you tank pressure. And you have front, rear, tank. Pretty simple. And then you just run these wires up to your gauge. Nice wires, you got different gauge panels. Pretty nice setup, I like it. Oh, hey, how's it going? I got this manifold all pretty much done. Waiting on 4 more fittings for right here for these hoses. This is a pretty cool setup. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it'll work out perfect. this distributor cap like cover. It's gonna end up going over like this. Not gonna go down quite so far, but you see I got this spaced up on that as a rotator right now. So kind of imagine it like that. This goes over the top. So get welded on, and then I'm gonna build a 7x7 box. So there's the layout to bend it and cut it. So I'll build a 7x7 box, much like when you look on a distributor like this. You see there's that box there. Okay, so I'm gonna build one of those that comes up like that, and then I'll actually have my wiring come out the same hole or the same way that it does on a distributor. So I'll make a box for that and have the wiring come out that way. And then just the black lines are gonna come out like, see how these are vertical? They'll actually come out horizontal. Some distributors come out horizontal like this, so that's the best way I could get it to fit, and then each one of these can run easily to whatever I need to run it to. So it worked out good. I like it. It's pretty cool. One thing I forgot to mention was this distributor cap. It's actually going to be mounted using, these are the original brackets that come with these valves when I bought them. So what I did was, I'm not using those brackets obviously because this is all manifolded up. So what I'm going to do, or what I did, was I took 2 of those brackets and just welded on a 1/4" bolt. Alright. And those mount on there. See, these are spins, so it doesn't really matter that this is in the way. Right? And then that'll actually mount onto here. It'll bolt down. This will all be welded together, obviously. It'll bolt down, and then the other cover will also bolt to the same brackets. I thought that was kind of a cool use. I didn't have to lay out these holes or anything like that, and I wasn't going to use these anyway, so it worked out well.
Up here, we're free, bound only by frozen memories. It's fine, racing all these broken dreams tonight.
Got both doors open, the ventilation fan on, doing some painting. You can see I painted the rear end here, and now I'm doing a patina paint job on this distributor. So what I did was I started out with black primer, and then I went with a ivory. This isn't the exact color, but I went with an ivory paint right there, which is just basically an off-white. Now I'm gonna hit it with a few little spots of this, and then with the final color, the red. Okay, and what that's gonna do is when it dries, it'll allow me to sand it, and I'll have layers so I can have a nice looking patina. So I'll show you an example here of a few different test colors I did. So right there is just black and red. So I did the black primer and then the red base coat. And right there you can see I did the ivory second coat. So what that does, you can see it just adds a lot of depth and character to it. Okay, and then you can add, you can do like a paper bag method or something to add more texture to it, or really anything you want. Okay, so that's just a test piece to give me kind of an idea of what I wanted to do. Now you can see that I added a couple different browns and made a few little scratch marks in the base coat there. And see right here, you can see there's a little bit of a run. Well, I did that on purpose because that kind of adds some character to it. So if you have little runs and little different sorts of, you know, textures on there. It looks natural. So now next is the red base coat, and I'll put a couple coats on that, and then I can let it dry overnight and then come back and start patinaing it. So first I took this lighter shade of red and then I put it over on the distributor here. And then to make it look old, I took a darker red, put it over the top, and you can see it's kind of splotchy. But when I sand this down, it's gonna expose the lighter red, and it'll make the lighter red look newer, which makes sense because if you expose, pretend this is old red, if you were to sand it down or patina it, the new patina would obviously be a little bit lighter. So that gives it a little bit of depth and it makes it seem a little more real. And then after I let that dry for a little bit, I'm going to take some more primer because it's a flat color and spray a little mist of black over all of it, and that'll make it look old. And then if you make it splotchy and blend it in, it looks good. So here I have some old ripped up jeans. While this is still tacky, I'm gonna go ahead and add some flavor to this. So when I sand this down, it's gonna have some of that. So now that it's still tacky, I did a few more little things to it. You know, I took a bunch of little stuff and kind of rubbed it on there. Used my hands, you know. Want to make sure not to leave any obvious signs of a hand, but see, there's a bunch of different little things going on here. A variety. Looks like I need to get a little bit of something down in here so it don't all look nice. And then I got up there, you know, do a bunch of layers. And then you can go over and you can sand it once it's dry. You can do a whole bunch of different things. It's just kind of be creative with it and make it look right. So I went to put in my air tank and I hit another frickin' snag. You can see in here that there is actually quite a large gap. I mean, it's what, 2 inches maybe? But that 2 inches is making up for, or is causing a lot of ruckus for fitment of this tank with this whole valve assembly. So what I'm gonna have to do here, you can see it's got the original nipple on here with these threads, and then it's got the 3/4 inch MBT female with that threads into. So what I'm electing to do now, so I can get this closer, this manifold closer this way, I'm actually going to cut this nipple off, flip it over so that the nipple is on the inside, and then grind this hole out until this slides in and weld it all back together so I can gain an extra, at least what, 1.5 inches or so. And then if that's not quite enough, still I'm going to get an MPT tap for that size. For the size of this bung here, or this coupler, nipple, whatever you want to call it, and you can actually thread deeper into this so that the whole nipple will actually thread in deeper. So you can see on this valve assembly here that we tapped that deeper so that the nipple will go in a little bit further. So if we can do the same thing on this tank, and that'll give me an extra 1/4 inch, which doesn't sound like much, but you know, it adds up. So troubleshooting, pain in the ass. This right here is probably one of the single most time-consuming parts of my build. This is the distributor cap that I was showing you guys for the airlines, and basically the airline goes in like that in each slot here, and then it'll go off to its respective place. So there's 8 holes here for 8 airlines. And then what I also did was I added this drain cock, pet cock, whatever you want to call it, at the lowest spot of the tank when it's mounted. And then I made some tabs that just mount this whole tank to the framework in the car. Okay, so this is probably one of my single favorite things on the car, most creative, and it took a lot of time. So you can see that this cover, the wiring is going to come out here and go to my switch box. I'll take off this cover and kind of show you what's going on under here. So there's the valve setup with the fittings right in there, and those are all push to connect, so it'll be easy to take in and out of the car if I need to, for some reason, take apart this valve setup to replace a valve or anything like that. Here's the cover, and once all the lines are in, you just put the cover on, bolt it up, and that's that. So I think that's pretty cool. It turned out awesome. Another Cool Touch Wild-Torquey. So my plumbing isn't yet hooked up, but here's another example of some of the fittings that I've used, and this is just a temporary setup with a ball valve. This is just a temporary setup with a ball valve. Didn't realize there's air in there still, but you can see how that's just teed up. Then I just hook up a regular air line, a regular garage hose to it. Get the same setup here in the back, basically, in a nutshell. So I'll fill this up for you guys, show you full travel. I actually have my tank still over there in the corner. I don't have all the air lines and whatnot ran yet. I was going to kind of wait until I got the floor done, but I'm not going to have the floor done by the time this episode's going to be published, probably, so I won't have time to plumb that up. I've been pretty busy carting my dad around to doctor appointments and stuff almost every day, so it's kind of taking a back seat, but slowly chipping away at it. Now this is almost about full travel. If I throw about 150 psi or 50 psi more at it, I'll get more. And right now I am at 7.5 inches off the ground. So I was expecting to be about 9 inches, and that's probably going to be about right. Max lift is about 9 inches, which is pretty good for bag over axle, and it's a strong lift. And once it's all set up on the switch box, it won't be manual like this, it'll be fast. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned. Remember, every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, there will be a new video. And thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe!
Kustoms.
Got fittings. So today I'm going to assemble these distribution style block things that I had machined up, and I wanted to kind of give you a basic overview on fittings, so I'll just start from one of these. Alright, so this right here is an MPT fitting, 1/2 inch. This is a male, right? And then this is a push to connect side. So how these work is you take your air brake tube and you cut it to fit, obviously, and then you slide it in and it automatically pushes to lock. Alright? And then when you want to pull it out, you have to take a screw or a wrench or something so you can get around the hose, and then you push down on the collar. You might be able to do it with your fingers too, but if you push down on the collar and then pull out on the hose at the same time, it'll pull out. These are pretty good seals. They're better than the old plastic style ones. These are DOT approved. Okay, and then these are compression style fittings, just like any other compression style fitting. You put the hose in there and then you tighten this up until the collar tightens against the hose. And then notice, see how these have the tube on the inside? That is a crush tube, so it helps the brake line, which is nylon. It helps it prevent from it like collapsing when you tighten on the collar. Otherwise, if you go to Menards, you can find these cheap fittings. It says MIP. I was told it's the same, but I don't believe it. Anyways, I'll open this up for you quick. These are really cheap. I think it was like 10 bucks for a bag of 5. I mean, that's pretty cheap. And you can see they're a lot smaller. These right here are the DOT approved ones, and these are non-DOT approved. And then if you look in here, you can see there's no crush collar. So you can actually get away with these temporarily on your nylon air brake tube, but I would never run these for an extended period of time because first of all, they're only rated for like 60 psi, and second of all, they're gonna leak because you don't have a crush tube in there. So the tube, the nylon hose, I'll show you the hose so you all know what I'm talking about. So here's some of the hose. It's just basically plastic. Alright. This is just standard air brake hose. DOT approved, obviously. So this just slides on there like so. Okay, and then you just tighten it up, but it'll actually crush this tube without the inside insert. So these Menards fittings, no good. Your best bet is to go on eBay and order a big quantity of DOT fittings, if you can. Otherwise, some hardware stores stock these, but they're pretty expensive. These are usually almost 10 bucks a piece because they're brass and they're DOT approved. So I ended up getting these on eBay. I think they were a 50 piece for $90, so that's not too bad shipped. And these are just straights, and I have so many because I'm doing something kind of cool. I won't use all these here, but I figured why not just get them. I have them. They're a good deal to buy multiples of them. So and these are just what the hell is it called, a union fitting. See, these are for what I'm gonna do with these. You can see I have my bags in here, so I'm gonna run both airlines off an elbow, which is one of these push to connect elbows. And this is actually a swivel elbow, so you can see that the head of it actually swivels. So in here, since it's a tight squeeze, these will work great because they'll swivel as you tighten. So that'll work out good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send both airlines this direction, and then I'll drill a hole in here, actually 2 holes for each, 1 hole for each hose, right? And then I'll take this union that I was just showing you, compression style fit onto there, and then it'll run back along my frame. Because, so I'll have 2 of these right next to each other. Because with this DOT air brake line, this is about as tight of a radius as you can get. So what you're gonna have is you're gonna have a hose. It's gonna come out this way, and then it's gonna wanna curl around like that. Well, that just ain't gonna look that nice. So I elected to buy those fittings. I'll do that. And then also it's less chance of it hitting on the wheel or whatever. It'll be stationary. I might even try and figure out a way to mount the compression fitting onto this right here so that it looks clean and it's all done inside this little cross member here, which I'll have a panel over. And then I'll run it back to the back. Long story short, DOT fittings. If you're gonna run a lot of fittings, I recommend getting the good ones because you're gonna leak otherwise, so that's important. Cheap valves are just fine. Valves are valves. Brass is brass for the most part. Here's a drain cock for my tank. And yeah, so today I'm gonna assemble these, and you'll kind of see what I have planned. So this little hose cutter is what I use to cut my DOT brake line. When you cut this line, you want to have as straight of a cut as you can get so that it seats correctly, especially with the push to connect fittings. So use one of these. You can get these on eBay for like 10 bucks for the cheap ones. You can buy expensive ones too, whatever. Spring loaded, they work pretty good. And then after you cut, sometimes you get a little burr on the edge of your hose, so you just take a little bit of sandpaper and just clean it up real quick. You don't want anything in between this surface area. You can also clean the hose if it's been sitting for a while. But yeah, that's basically it. So now I'm gonna cut this to fit and start compression fitting stuff.
Ha ha ha.